AITA for refusing to let my roommate's boyfriend live with us after he tried to test me. I 19 female share a small 2-bedroom apartment with my roommate, let's call her Ashley, 20 female. We've been friends since high school and decided to split rent when we both started college. At first, it seemed like the perfect arrangement. We knew each other's quirks, had similar schedules, and honestly, living together just felt like a continuation of the good times we'd always had. The first few months went smoothly. We split chores and expenses evenly, and while we weren't perfect, we made it work. Ashley had always been a bit more outgoing than me, while I'm more of a homebody. I didn't mind her having friends over occasionally, and she was generally respectful about keeping things low-key. Things were good, until Jake entered the picture. Jake, 22 male, is Ashley's boyfriend, and when they first started dating, he seemed fine. A little cocky, maybe, but nothing that raised any major red flags. He'd come over a couple of nights a week, usually when Ashley cooked dinner or when they wanted to watch movies together. I didn't mind, after all, this is her home too, and I figured it was normal for a boyfriend to visit. I'd just retreat to my room and give them their space. But over time, Jake started coming over more and more. What was once 2 nights a week turned into 5, and then pretty much every day. At first, I tried to be chill about it. I figured maybe they were just in that honeymoon phase and couldn't get enough of each other. But then Jake started treating the apartment like it was his own. He'd raid the fridge, leave dirty dishes in the sink, and use our shared stuff without asking, like my shampoo, laundry detergent, and even my phone charger once. He wasn't just visiting anymore, he was practically living there. And the kicker? He wasn't contributing anything to rent, utilities, or groceries. It was like having a third roommate I never agreed to. I tried to talk to Ashley about it, casually at first. I'd drop hints like, wow, Jake's here a lot these days, or, do you think Jake could replace the eggs he used? I was planning to make breakfast. But she'd just laugh it off and say something like, oh, you know how guys are, or, he's not here that much. For a while, I let it go because I didn't want to rock the boat. But after a particularly annoying weekend where Jake monopolized the living room for hours playing video games while I was stuck in my room, I decided enough was enough. I sat Ashley down and told her point blank that Jake either needed to start paying his share of rent and bills or stop practically living with us. I was calm but firm. To my surprise, she didn't blow up at me. She apologized and said she'd talk to him about it. I thought, great, problem solved. Little did I know, that conversation was just the beginning of the drama. Fast forward to last week. It was a Tuesday night, and I was rushing around the apartment, trying to get everything together for a late-night study group. My bag was slung over my shoulder, half-packed with books and notes, and I was in the kitchen hurriedly putting together some snacks to bring along. I had my head in the fridge, scanning for something easy to grab, when I heard Jake walk in. The sound of his footsteps already made my stomach tighten. The last thing I needed was an interaction with him when I was on a tight schedule. I figured he'd just grab a soda or snack and head back to the couch to play his endless video games, but instead, he stopped and leaned against the counter. I could feel his eyes on me before he even said anything. So, he began, dragging out the word in this smug, self-satisfied tone that instantly set my teeth on edge. Ashley told me you've got some concerns about me being here. I froze for a moment, my hand hovering over a container of hummus, and turned to look at him. The way he was standing there, arms crossed, leaning casually against the counter as if he owned the place, it was infuriating. But I kept my cool. Yeah, I replied evenly, closing the fridge. I just think if you're going to be here all the time, it's only fair that you contribute, you know. He didn't even blink. Instead, he smirked, a lazy, condescending smirk that made my skin crawl. Fair enough, he said, as if he were doing me some kind of favor by acknowledging my point. But before I agree to anything, I need to know if you're really roommate material. For a moment, I just stared at him, completely thrown off by the absurdity of what he'd just said. "What are you talking about?" I asked, genuinely baffled. Jake shifted his weight slightly, his smirk widening. He gave me this look, like he was enjoying how off balance I was. "I'm not just going to start paying rent without making sure this is a living arrangement I can be comfortable with," he said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "So, I've come up with a list of rules you'd need to follow if I officially moved in." At this point, I couldn't decide if I was more stunned or amused. Was he serious? Was this actually happening? Part of me wanted to tell him to get lost right then and there, but another part of me, morbid curiosity, maybe, wanted to see just how far he was planning to take this. "What kind of rules?" I asked, folding my arms. Jake, clearly pleased that I was entertaining this nonsense, pulled out his phone and opened the Notes app. He was completely serious, and that was the most ridiculous part. He actually had a list. He cleared his throat like he was about to deliver some groundbreaking manifesto. First, he began, "You'll need to do your share of the cooking." He looked up at me briefly, as if expecting me to nod in agreement. "It's only fair, since we'd all be living here together." I almost laughed out loud. I already cooked for myself, thank you very much, and the idea of making meals for him, the freeloading stranger who'd taken over my living room, was downright absurd. But he wasn't done. "Second," he continued, "no bringing any guys over. It's just too disruptive." He said it so casually, like it was a perfectly reasonable request. I'm single, and I can count on one hand how many times I've had friends over in the past 6 months. Why would this even be relevant? The sheer audacity was mind-blowing. He scrolled down his phone. "Third," he said, "you'll need to be respectful of my gaming time. That means not using the Wi-Fi during my streams, especially in the evenings. Streaming takes a lot of bandwidth, and I need it to run smoothly." At this point, I was already mentally preparing my response, but Jake wasn't done yet. He looked back at his phone and added, "Oh, and you'd need to clear any major changes to the apartment with me first. Things like moving furniture, adding new decorations, that kind of stuff. It's important to keep the space functional." He finally looked up, clearly expecting me to be nodding along in agreement, or maybe even thanking him for his generosity. Instead, I just stared at him, my mind racing between disbelief and amusement. He was serious. He truly believed he had the right to dictate terms to me, terms that were not only ridiculous but also insulting. By the time he finished, I could feel a laugh bubbling up in my chest. It wasn't the kind of laugh you give when something's funny, but the kind that comes out when a situation is so absurd, so far beyond rationality, that you don't know what else to do. I looked him in the eye, barely suppressing my disbelief, and said, "There's no way you're moving in." He didn't like that. His face turned red, and he started ranting about how I was being unreasonable and selfish. I just grabbed my stuff and left for my study group, figuring I'd deal with it later. The next day, Ashley confronted me. Apparently, Jake had told her his side of the story, conveniently leaving out the part where he tried to give me a ridiculous list of demands. She accused me of being unfair and said Jake was just testing the waters to see if we could all live together peacefully. Then she dropped the bombshell: she thinks I'm jealous of their relationship because I'm single and don't know what it's like to compromise for someone you care about. She even hinted that if I couldn't be supportive, maybe she should find a new roommate, someone who respects her relationship. I was stunned. I told her I wasn't jealous and that my issue wasn't with their relationship but with the fact that Jake was freeloading and acting like he owned the place. She didn't want to hear it. And now, Ashley and a couple of her friends, who are obviously taking her side, are calling me selfish and controlling. They're saying I'm trying to sabotage her happiness. So here I am, feeling completely gaslit and wondering if I'm the crazy one. I feel like my boundaries are reasonable, but Ashley and Jake have turned this into a full-blown drama. AITA. Update 1. Hi everyone, it's been a wild ride since my original post, and I wanted to give an update because, honestly, a lot has happened. First, I want to say thank you to everyone who commented and reached out. It helped me see things so much more clearly. I don't think I even realized how deep in the fog I was until I started reading your insights. It's crazy how much you can normalize toxic behavior when it's happening right in front of you. I can't believe how much emotional manipulation I was putting up with. Jake and Ashley had me doubting my own reality, and for what? To make room for a freeloading man-child. I think a part of me just hated the idea of losing a friendship I'd held onto for so long. We've been friends since high school, and that history made it so much harder to see things for what they were. But you're all right, who needs enemies with friends like these? Still, I'd be lying if I said it didn't break my heart. I've cried more in the past week than I have in the past year, and even now, just typing this out, I feel the sting of it. But that doesn't change what needs to be done. Since our big confrontation, Jake has gone full-blown victim mode. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. He's been telling our mutual friends that I'm out to ruin his life, and that I'm kicking him out of his girlfriend's apartment. Let me remind everyone, Jake does not pay a single dime for rent, utilities, or groceries. The sheer audacity of him calling it his girlfriend's apartment is just beyond me. And the worst part? Some people actually believe him. He's been spinning this narrative that I'm some kind of jealous, controlling roommate who can't handle his straightforward personality. Ashley, of course, is eating this up. She's fully taken Jake's side and now acts like I'm some kind of villain in her love story. She's been walking around the apartment with this attitude like she owns the place, making snide comments under her breath, slamming cupboards when I'm in the kitchen, and even rearranging some of my things to make room for Jake's stuff. It's maddening. At this point, I feel like a guest in my own home. Every time I walk into the living room, Jake's there, sprawled out on the couch like he's king of the castle. And Ashley? She looks at me like I'm the one intruding. What really pushed me over the edge was a comment Ashley made the other night. She told me, completely deadpan, that my negative energy was making it hard for them to feel comfortable in their own home. Their home. Let that sink in. This apartment is just as much mine as it is hers, if anything, more so, because I'm the only one following the lease rules and paying my fair share. But now, according to her, I'm the problem. It was in that moment that I realized there was no salvaging this friendship. Ashley has chosen Jake, and she's willing to throw away everything we've built, years of friendship, mutual respect, our peaceful living arrangement, all for him. I've decided I've had enough. I can't keep living like this, feeling trapped in a space that's supposed to be my sanctuary. I've already started documenting everything, Jake's constant presence, the way he's been freeloading off our food and utilities, and even the passive-aggressive things Ashley's been doing to make me feel unwelcome. I've taken pictures of his stuff piling up in the apartment, written down every instance where he's overstepped boundaries, and saved screenshots of messages from mutual friends where he's badmouthing me. My next step is to reach out to my landlord. I went through our lease with a fine-tooth comb, and, as many of you pointed out, most leases have clauses about long-term guests. Jake has definitely overstayed his welcome, and I'm pretty sure this violates the terms of our agreement. I plan to explain the situation to my landlord and see what can be done. I'm not looking to escalate things unnecessarily, but at this point, I feel like I need to protect myself. What hurts the most, though, is losing Ashley. Or maybe it's realizing that I already lost her a long time ago, the moment she let Jake start taking over her life. I keep thinking back to the good times we had in high school, all the late-night talks, the inside jokes, the promises we made to always have each other's backs. It feels like I've been mourning the loss of a friend who's still physically here but completely gone in every other way. To everyone who commented and supported me in my original post, thank you. You have no idea how much it meant to me to have people validate my feelings and remind me that I'm not crazy or selfish for wanting to protect my home and my peace. I'll update again once I've spoken to my landlord and taken further steps. For now, I'm just focusing on reclaiming my space, my boundaries, and, most importantly, my peace of mind. If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's that you can't let people take advantage of your kindness. Boundaries are not only important, they're necessary. Thank you for being there for me when I needed it most. This community has given me more support than I ever expected, and I'm so grateful for that. I'll keep you posted. Update 2. Hi everyone. I'm back with what I think will be the final update to this saga. A lot has happened since I last wrote, and I'm happy to say that things have taken a turn for the better. It's been a whirlwind of emotions, realizations, and tough conversations, but I can finally say that I'm in a much better place. Thank you to everyone who offered advice, support, or even just a kind word during what felt like one of the most stressful periods of my life. I genuinely don't know if I would have gotten here without all of you. After my last post, I decided it was time to stop tiptoeing around the issue and take concrete action. I contacted my landlord to explain the situation. I laid everything out: Jake's constant presence, the way he'd essentially moved in without being on the lease, and how his behavior was creating a hostile living environment. I was nervous about how the landlord would respond, but to my relief, they were incredibly understanding. They pointed out that our lease had a strict guest policy, one that Jake was blatantly violating. According to the terms, any guest who stays more than a certain number of consecutive nights or spends the majority of their time in the apartment must either be added to the lease or leave. The landlord was firm: Jake couldn't stay overnight anymore unless Ashley wanted to go through the process of adding him to the lease. And if that happened, we'd need to renegotiate everything, from the rent split to the utilities. I was so relieved to have this backing because it meant I wasn't just the jealous, controlling roommate anymore. I had legal grounds to stand on. When I told Ashley about this, she did not take it well. At first, she was furious. She accused me of trying to sabotage her relationship, called me petty, and said I was going out of my way to make Jake feel unwelcome. It hurt to hear her say those things, especially since all I'd ever wanted was for her to respect my boundaries. But I stayed calm and reiterated that this wasn't about her relationship, it was about the fact that Jake was freeloading and turning our apartment into his personal hangout without contributing anything. I also reminded her that these were the terms of our lease, not some rule I made up to spite her. Over the next couple of days, something shifted. I think as the reality of the situation set in, Jake not being able to stay over anymore unless he contributed, Ashley started to see things more clearly. For the first time, it seemed like she was really listening to me instead of just defending Jake. To my surprise, she apologized. She admitted that she had been so caught up in her feelings for him that she hadn't stopped to consider how much his presence had disrupted our living arrangement or how much it had hurt me. It wasn't an overnight transformation, but it was a start. Ashley asked for some space to think about everything, including her relationship with Jake. Over the next week, Jake stopped coming over entirely. The apartment felt so much lighter without him there, and I could feel some of the tension between Ashley and me starting to fade. It gave us both the breathing room we needed to have an honest, heartfelt conversation. When we finally sat down to talk, Ashley opened up in a way I hadn't seen in weeks. She admitted that Jake's behavior had been weighing on her too and that she was starting to see just how controlling and manipulative he could be. She said she felt like she'd been losing herself in the relationship, constantly bending over backward to make Jake happy while ignoring her own needs, and mine. Hearing her say that was bittersweet. On one hand, I was relieved that she was finally seeing the truth. On the other hand, it broke my heart to know she had been struggling too but didn't feel like she could talk to me about it. And then, the biggest surprise of all, Ashley broke up with Jake. It wasn't immediate, she took a few days to really think it over, but in the end, she realized that his toxicity wasn't just hurting me, it was hurting her too. She told him she needed space to figure things out, and from what I can gather, it didn't go well. Jake apparently doubled down on his victim narrative, accusing her of letting me ruin their relationship. But Ashley stood her ground, and for that, I'm incredibly proud of her. Since the breakup, things have been peaceful. The apartment feels like home again. No more random piles of Jake's stuff in the bathroom, no more video game marathons in the living room, no more feeling like I'm walking on eggshells in my own space. Ashley and I are still working on rebuilding our friendship, but for the first time in what feels like forever, it feels possible. We've been spending more time together, watching movies, cooking meals, and just talking like we used to. It's not perfect, and I'm not naive enough to think things will go back to exactly how they were before. But I do think we're moving in the right direction. As for me, I've learned so much from this experience. I've learned the importance of setting boundaries and standing up for myself, even when it feels uncomfortable. I've learned that it's okay to let go of relationships, romantic or platonic, that no longer serve you. And I've learned that true friendship is about mutual respect and understanding, not just history or convenience. I've also made some changes to the apartment to make it feel more like mine again. I redecorated the living room, moved some furniture around, and added a few personal touches that make the space feel fresh and welcoming. It's been a small but powerful way of reclaiming my environment and reminding myself that I deserve to feel safe and comfortable in my own home. And for those of you wondering, yes, I kept the lock on my bedroom door. It's not about distrust anymore, it's about peace of mind. Having that extra layer of security makes me feel more in control, and honestly, I think we all deserve to feel that way in our own space. I'm not sure what the future holds for Ashley and me, but for now, I'm hopeful. We've agreed to prioritize communication and respect moving forward, and I think we both learned a lot from this experience. As for Jake, I haven't heard from him since the breakup, and I hope it stays that way. To everyone who supported me throughout this ordeal, thank you. Your advice, kindness, and encouragement made all the difference. Without this community, I might still be stuck in a toxic, chaotic situation, questioning my own sanity. Instead, I've come out the other side stronger, wiser, and with a renewed sense of self-worth. Thank you for helping me find my way. I couldn't have done it without you.